Hello and welcome to another episode of the Solo Doomsday podcast. I mean, the Solo Gamer podcast. My name is Ian, and I am joined by our two official co-hosts. We have the whole crew today. No guests and nobody missing. Everyone is here. Kyle, welcome back to the show, my man.
Thank you. It's good to be back. I missed you guys. But I know you guys had a good time without me. But yeah, happy to be back.
I mean, we had a good time, but not because you weren't here.
You're right.
That's okay. I mean, you don't have to say it while I'm here.
Taylor, welcome in, good sir. Always happy to see you. We were just talking before we started recording that sometimes right before the podcast, we're a little like, this is a tough day at work. I don't know if I have the energy for this. But then it starts and I'm like, hey, it's Taylor. What's up, man?
Yeah, you gotta ease yourself into it, but once you get there, all systems are normal, everything's good. But yeah, Wednesdays are just rough, man. Like, oh my God. Plus it's like, we're gonna be getting to some heavy topics today. So it's kind of like I want to talk about it, but I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much as heavy as it'll ever get for our show, at least.
Yeah.
But this is not going to be a super fun gaming show. I mean, we will try to have fun and like be ourselves and all that good stuff. I'm sure we'll get some laughs in there, but we are doing a news episode this week, folks. There's a lot to cover, so we're not going to dilly-dally too much. But this is not normally where the news episode would fit in the cycle. We were actually due for a kind of fun evergreen topic of your favorite this or rank this or whatever. But we just felt like that would come off as a little tone deaf. And given everything that's happening to the industry that makes our games, it just felt like we just need to get everybody caught up on what's going on, or at least just kind of maybe give you and each other a therapy session today to try and I don't know, just kind of deal with what's going on in the gaming industry, because even though it's been bad before, this is probably as bad as it has ever been in my lifetime. I think right now, this lasts like 2 weeks. I think have just been really hard to take from I don't want to there are horrific things happening in the world. There's like genocide going on. So like we need to just sort of put that in the box, right? We understand, like when we say, man, what a hard time it's been, we know what that means and how ridiculous that sounds if you start thinking about what else is going on in the world. But just from the perspective of this show and the video games industry, this has been a rough couple of weeks. It's been tough to be interested in this stuff. So we're just going to talk about all of that. We're going to get everyone's opinions. We're just going to kind of cover the news like we do in these news episodes. Let's just kind of do what we do normally. We will jump into individual stories one at a time and cover them all individually. But what stood out to you the most? I mean, Taylor, let's start with you, man. Like, obviously, you can see we have a show sheet that we keep up on our kind of our other monitor, if you will, that we kind of use to follow. There's a lot of bad news in here. I don't know. How are you doing though? Just overall, just seeing all of this stuff, like, just kind of give me your total take on just the industry as a whole right now.
Yeah. In short, not good. I think you were right, man. I think this is probably one of the worst, if not the worst news, like last couple news weeks in our hobby that I can ever remember. So was kind of one of those things where we talked about jumping on the show here today, and it was like, man, I'm really not looking forward to talking about this, but yeah, it certainly would be come off as kind of tone deaf to just kind of push it to the background and rank our favorite video game weapons. Like it just seems like it would not I don't know, just I couldn't like stomach doing that. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, weirdly enough, a couple episodes ago, I feel like we brought up like the great video game crash of the 80s. And of course, like a lot of that stuff happened back in the day due to much different reasons than what's happening now. And I don't know that we're necessarily in for a crash per se. I think video games make a little bit too much money for it to ever truly go away or have a crash per se. But I think we're just living in a late stage capitalism hellscape right now, and the video game industry is getting hit particularly hard by some of that. So it's just not good, man. A lot of really awful news for a lot of us, that have been in this hobby for a while. So I mean, there's not much else to say other than that.
Yeah, Kyle, I don't know how much you've been seeing. I know you've been really busy the last few weeks, but just from what you've seen and kind of what we're going to be talking about today, like, how are you feeling, man? How are you dealing with, what do you think about all this news that's come out and the fact that it's all kind of been concentrated in the last 2 weeks? It feels like it just feels like someone just kind of flipped a switch here. But even though it's not really how it is, but it feels that way.
Yeah, it almost makes you kind of feel like maybe these studios are, pretty calculated about when they release certain information, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a coincidence that PlayStation and Xbox kind of jump in together on,
right.
Here's the bad news after we just, let you know of all the awesome games that were coming up, So they kind of bring you up so that the letdown isn't nearly as bad, although I don't think that, that softened the blow at all here. With that being said, obviously there's a little bit of, you have to be a bit realistic, right? I think the writing was on the wall for a majority of what has now come out with the Xbox, layoffs and the PlayStation issue with the physical games. Obviously the writing was on the wall for that. So it doesn't make it feel any better, but at least, we kind of were expecting this. And same with price increase as well. But that one kind of hits me the most. And I think what scares me about that is I just remember being a kid, and I grew up in a pretty poor background. Shout out to my mom because she is amazing and found a way to get out of it and got on her own 2 feet. But definitely in the beginning, it was really rough, and we were on quite a bit of assisted living. And with that being said, it was still somehow affordable for me to have an Xbox throughout my childhood, and that's something that I never missed out on. And the video games were always very reasonably priced, and so I got to still be a kid and experience those video games that I wanted to play and to be able to actually play with my friends in that community. And so that's what kind of scares me the most, is just really for the kids that are growing up. It's not really going to be a common thing anymore that, kids can have a $600-700, Xbox or PlayStation or even more than that. It's just not reasonable. And so unfortunately there's going to be a huge demographic of kids who just can't really jump in, and then they just miss out on it, right? And you don't really jump in later because life gets busy. If you didn't start early, you're never going to get into it. So I'm just sad for that loss, because that's kind of seems like where it's headed. It's no longer, it's no longer something that everybody has access to. It's definitely way more of a luxury now.
That's a really good point, man. Like, I did not even really, it's not that I didn't think about that, but I think in the context of everything that's going on, that's not only are they going to miss out on experiences that are at all similar to ours. I mean, every generation has their own experiences that, then the next one feels like they missed out on stuff. But this is unique, I think, to your point, because that stuff is going to get replaced by Fortnite and other big free platform games with really brutal in-game monetization. But death by 1,000 cuts is less noticeable than just a giant anchor that is the price of a console now. Someone who can afford, which is just about everybody at this point, someone who can afford a new console, it's one thing to be like, I can't, sorry, son or daughter, we can't get you this $800 Xbox or PlayStation for Christmas, but I know you love Fortnite. So like, here's $100 Fortnite gift card, which will get you all these skins and guns, right? So like the whole aspect of like the geography, if you will, of like the landscape of the way that video games are even understood by people growing up,
and how it permeates the culture,
will be so different, because we grew up with the games on our shelves and the multiple games and sequels and story-based games and multiplayer games, and that came with, or the two together, and like these different genres. And instead it's like, we're just going to get, it feels like we're pretty much just going to get these big free games, and there will be a few that kind of reach out to people's interests, and that's it. Like, that's all. There are people who are 15 years old and they've literally never played anything other than maybe Fortnite and Valorant and like maybe a Dota or something, or whatever, like these kind of free games. Or maybe some of the Japanese or Chinese ones, right? Genshin Impact and things like that. These like games that just kind of are there and available and just suck you dry over a long period of time. Like, that is what the video game industry is going to be, I think, for the people that you're talking about. And that's very sad. Like, that's super sad, that we're just going to restrict everyone from being able to just even enjoy things. And on the other end of it, because of those changes, despite seeing the writing on the wall for some of this stuff, because I think you're totally right. I don't think any of us can sit here and be like clutching our pearls and acting shocked by anything. But I think the thing that's really depressing is that it's more than just about money, in the sense of like, oh, Xbox and PlayStation have to lay off all of these people because they've overextended and games cost too much to make and they're not selling as well and all this stuff, right? There's all these things to it. But I think for me, I can only speak for myself. I kind of had this idea that, all right, if it's just about money, then the games that do well, the games that make a lot of money, should be okay. The people who create the games that do well should be okay. And we're reaching the point now where it's like, it doesn't matter. The Elder Scrolls Online has generated over $2 billion in profit since 2014. And they just laid off half of the dev team, including some of the original people that helped create the game. People that I feel like I kind of know because I watch all of the streams every week, or every month or whatever. I mean, Mike Finnegan, the guy who designed all the was like the lead designer of all the dungeons and trials in the game, and he's like one of the main combat engineers for Elder Scrolls Online since it's launched. Axed, gone. I mean, we are like bloodletting not just people who got hired during COVID and work remote and like don't do anything. These are like veterans, old school veterans who have been with these companies for decades and decades, and all of that knowledge that they have with them that they are currently passing on to the next generation of game developers just got absolutely ripped out. And that's, I think, the thing that's really tough about this is that it is so brutal and so unforgiving, and these companies will never recover from this. I don't know how you do. Yeah. I don't know how you recover from that. I mean, they'll make other stuff and maybe it'll be good, but like a lot of the things that makes games like a lot of existing franchises that we like, what makes them what they are is no longer there, like, at all. So that's the hard part for me. It's just like, those guys are probably not going to get jobs in the gaming industry. Maybe some of them will. Some of them will go have enough money that maybe they'll create a studio and do something like Blood of the Dawnwalker or whatever. But like, for the most part, most of these people are just going to vanish, and we'll never see anything from them again. Even though they were like instrumental in creating a bunch of our favorite games. So it's just brutal, man. It's really tough. Why don't we just dive in while we're talking about it? Because I just kind of referenced the ESO team getting cut in half. That's one of only many, many other teams that got annihilated. I just kind of want to talk about, like, before we dive into specifically what happened here, I want to hear from you guys on this. This is tough. I don't envy Asha Sharma. It's her job to come in and fix this thing, and it was already like on fire and sinking into the ocean at the same time. I feel like this is a reflection of the gamble on Game Pass, and in turn, the decision to buy Activision for $70 billion. Those two are kind of connected. And those two things are the reason that we're seeing this from Xbox, I think, for the most part. Kyle, how do you feel about, like, I feel like we've kind of reached the end point of this. Like, this is where Game Pass went. I think it could have gone elsewhere. I think a lot of people who are like, oh, Game Pass is always the worst idea ever, I feel like it didn't need to be, but we ended up here anyway. So what do you think? We're going to kind of talk about this. The Xbox is going to slash 3,200 jobs from their studios. They're getting rid of 5 studios that they had previously owned, either closing them or selling them off. And really just feels like Game Pass is kind of the reason. Just give me your take generally on this whole thing.
Yeah, I want to start off by saying that, when I think about the moves that Asha Sharma has made, I can't sit here and be like, why would you do this? Because, at the end of the day, she was sat on a throne to rule a dying kingdom, in a sense. Especially when you see the things that came out about how much money Xbox was hemorrhaging due to the issues of, like you were talking about, purchasing Activision, and then on top of that, adding it to Game Pass, and then the price hike of it, and then everybody dropped out. I read something. I was listening to Maddie the other day, and he was talking about how they were like apparently losing like 67 cents to the dollar, which is insane when you think about percentage wise how much money that is. So I think that Asha Sharma didn't have a choice, and it makes me upset because when you think about all of that, the entire time we were being told about how profitable Game Pass is.
Yeah. That
wasn't just like a bending, like a word salad to like make it sound better than it actually was. That was a flat out lie. And that's the issue that I really have with it at this point. We've got, obviously, massive layoffs are a big problem. I don't want to say that that's the only issue that I have. There's a lot of issues with it, but I mean, we just can't believe or trust anything that they say. They've clearly shown that they have the capability of flat out lying to our faces
over and over again.
Yeah. And finally you admit that Game Pass is not profitable. So in my opinion, if I have to choose between Game Pass or massive layoffs that are just destroying people's lives and getting rid of games that we are actually excited for, get rid of Game Pass. Like, why didn't you think of that earlier? And why are we like, it's just frustrating that we're like, the result of Game Pass was that we're losing all of these games and studios because of that. I'm a bit frustrated that we didn't have a little bit more transparency with that, so that we could voice an opinion as the consumer that, hey, if we have to like choose between the two, then people are not really that excited about Game Pass, if I'm being honest. And we made that pretty clear with the price hike. It went from what, $20 to $30.
Yeah, 50% increase.
Yeah. I mean, that was enough for all of us to go, well, it's actually not even really that worth it. I mean, 20, we were barely hanging on in the first place.
Yeah, 20 with day one releases was a great deal. It was like, as they said a lot, the best value in gaming. And it was. I mean, it truly was.
It's too much of a value.
But they couldn't afford it. They can't afford it. It's way too expensive to make video games right now. And we'll get into that more with like who's being laid off and where. I think is a big part of this. Taylor, before I dive into the specifics of this article, same thing, man. Like, how do you feel about where we are now? How is your take on Game Pass changed from the beginning to now, and just your general thoughts on this whole situation at Xbox?
Yeah, it's quite the mess at this point in time. I think the thing I think about when it comes to the Xbox situation is there was a point in time, I think, I'm going to bring in kind of like a sports analogy into this because I feel like it's pretty applicable to what's going on with Xbox. But there was kind of a point in time, I feel like, where, like a decade ago, right? Like the slow rebuild was kind of like the proven method for like a really long time. And then like, especially as it relates to the NBA, right? Like you got a lot of people that are starting up super teams and trying to win now, right? Like winning now was kind of like the formula that worked for Golden State Warriors. And you saw like a lot of people trying to emulate that sort of thing. Yep. So, there was a point in time where me as an Xbox fan, like I feel bad for kind of championing some of the stuff that they did at one point in time, because I was like, this is kind of the thing I think that makes you competitive, right? Like you go out and you make the $70 billion acquisition to get all of these massive franchises under your belt, and put yourself back in the fight. It was kind of one of those things where I kind of championed the ABK acquisition at one point in time, because I was like, I think at this point you are so far behind when it comes to trying to compete with PlayStation and Nintendo that like you got to go for it. You got to put your money where your mouth is and go out and get the Kevin Durant, go out and get the Bradley Beal, right? And so it just ended up not being the strategy that worked well. And I think that the slower, more methodical rebuild was kind of the way to go. And unfortunately, like the win now strategy is out. And I think by making that acquisition, I think is the thing that sort of helped bury them. It definitely wasn't the final straw. I think there were a lot of, straws that eventually kind of broke the camel's back, but $70 billion is not, nothing to sneeze at, right? Like they were able to operate in kind of a way previously where like, yeah, they were kind of a smaller part of Microsoft's overall business, but $70 will get you highlighted, or $70 billion will get you highlighted on that spreadsheet really quickly. So it was kind of one of those things where like we were sacrificing a lot with Game Pass. We'll talk a lot more about the physical games push as well, but Xbox long ago kind of has forgotten about their physical games. So, for a long time, those things are just coasters basically. So, it just sucks to see a result of all this happening and all of these people losing their jobs and leaving the industry. And it just sucks to see. So, hindsight's always 2020 when it comes to, analyzing the industry and seeing what works and what doesn't. But I think that it was kind of the death knell for them. It just makes me wish we could just go back in time and reverse the Don Matrix stuff. So that way Xbox could have been, if we could have started from right there, we could have gotten off strong. But
the butterfly effect is real, because you mentioned the multiple straws back, and it's like all of this really started with the Xbox One review.
Yeah.
Cue the interstellar scene.
Yeah.
No. Yes.
No.
Stop it.
So true.
TV, television, TV. And then, of course, the most infamous quote from Don Matrick. What did he say?
We have a console that.
Yeah. If you don't want to be connected to the internet, or if you can't be connected to the internet, we have a console for you, and it's called the Xbox 360.
Crazy.
Oh my God, it's so bad. Yeah. So yeah, that was truly this, and then Phil Spencer. So this is the interesting thing, and this is gonna happen with every one of these kind of stories that we're gonna talk about. I haven't even read anything from this article yet, which I will, but there is nuance to all this stuff, right? I mean, I am someone who also thought Game Pass was a great idea at first. The ABK thing was when I kind of shifted. Phil Spencer came in, and everyone is killing him now, rightfully so. He failed. But I loved Phil Spencer when he first came in, because I do feel like he directly addressed every single problem that Xbox fans had with Don Matrick and the Xbox One group of leadership. Like every single one of them. He got the new Xbox One consoles out that were, the Xbox One X, which was a lot more powerful and ran a lot better, and slowly but surely updated the UI and just all of these things. The whole customized controller, build your own controller thing, like all these things that I love so much about the brand, the backwards compatibility thing, and how you can put your OG Xbox game, if it's backwards compatible, into your Xbox One or your Series X, and it will read what it is, and download the game for you from Xbox Live. Like these kinds of things, all these really pro consumer things were all excellent, and they did a great job. And the idea of Game Pass for me, when I was all about Game Pass, it was always for and this is a lot of people, obviously this is not the case. It was always as a supplemental thing in my head. I liked early Game Pass because I thought it was sort of like, hey, have you seen all these indie games that would never have been seen or made a dime if we didn't find them? So like, I love the idea of Xbox having these talent scouts, you know, go back to our NFL or an NBA franchise kind of analogy, where they had these people going out with blank checkbooks and being like, I like what you're doing here. We'd like to give you a chunk of cash and put your game on Game Pass because you're going to release it next week and it's just going to just vanish into the sea. And Game Pass was really cool. I tried all kinds of stuff that came out. And I also love the idea of once their first party games had been out for a year or whatever, they would then put them onto Game Pass. I thought that was cool. So you have this like slowly growing library of games that are accessible for a low monthly cost. And then they started doing like the day one releases. And I remember thinking, wow, that's crazy. That I don't know how they're doing this. This is awesome though. If they can actually make this work and it's growing, I'm all about it. The ABK thing, that was for me where I started to change my mind on that, because I was rooting for the government in that whole thing. Like, please don't, we can't let these corporations get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and just buy all of these. It was too much. Anytime I see like the FTC is going after some company because they're trying to buy another company and become an even bigger company, I'm all about it. There's not supposed to be monopolies. I don't think it ever made sense. And it cost them way more than they thought, not just for $70 billion of purchasing, but they had to spend months in litigation with the federal government to make it happen. And it just destroyed everything. And they had no choice. By the time they got to the end of it and they had paid all that money, it was over. I mean, it was over before they put Call of Duty, for God's sakes, on Game Pass, and it didn't create growth because it was $30 a month. And it's just too bad. It's really too bad. It's just bad decision making. And then of course you kept going. You go with the whole Sarah Bond and the whole "this is an Xbox" campaign, just giant middle fingers to the people who have been playing on the consoles for this entire time. Just really ruined it. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Asha, like, I don't like her now because she fired 3,200 people or whatever. It's like, I don't know what she's supposed to do. It's just, this is less about her and more about our corporate shareholding, late stage capitalism. Like this is a societal, economic, governmental issue. Like this is a very sick world, basically. Is you know, it's like we're living in a kind of, we're about to topple over the cliff. It kind of feels like into like the true cyberpunk future. We're hurtling towards that edge, and this is just kind of what it feels like. This is what the one we're noticing. This is happening across so many industries that we don't even know anything about, right? So it's happening everywhere, but it's tough to see. I do want to read a write-in we got specifically about Game Pass and just how that whole thing just completely fucked up and stopped. Is just not going to work. From Cream Lord of the Cream. We had Cream Lord or Jordan on the show last week. If you haven't listened to it, The Experience Point, if you want to hear us talk about it like just a video game that we loved, you can do that. The three of us talked about 007 First Light. So go listen to that if you need something to distract yourself from all of this. Yeah. So Cream Lord Ronan, he said, it just sucks to see development teams suffer the consequences of something that was out of their control to begin with, which is the Game Pass model. It never made sense to me to begin with. We already tried to see the movie industry get away with this during COVID, and it blew up in their face. Like when Disney decided to skip the theatrical run and put Black Widow on Disney Plus, and then, surprise, surprise, they lost a ton of money. Where do they expect this money to come from exactly? Make it make sense, man. Same thing applies to the Game Pass model with these big budget games. Gutting teams of seasoned talent for a failed model that was out of their hands is atrocious. I don't know how else to put it. Classic case of looking at data in parentheses or in quotations, but without the context of how we got there. Yeah, that's a good point. Mm-hmm. Be careful how you use your spreadsheets, because they don't always tell the whole story.
Yeah, and just to kind of, I guess, like piggyback off of that a little bit too. Jordan is definitely right. Like, we saw this to begin with the movie industry, right? I remember back in probably like the late 2010s. Did you guys ever do like the movie pass thing that was going on around then?
I didn't, but I do know what I know.
Oh yeah, I think you're talking about like with the theaters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like basically
that
like
was a heck of a deal.
Yeah, it was like $10 or $15 a month or something like that, and you could do like unlimited movies through like AMC and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and it was crazy because it was like one of those things where you went and saw like one, maybe two movies that it paid for itself. So it was like an absolute no-brainer. But when it comes to all these streaming services like Netflix and HBO and stuff like that, the crazy part is that they didn't see that the writing was on the wall with some of that stuff in the first place, because didn't like Netflix like just become profitable like several years ago?
Yeah.
And it's been here since like 2009 or even before that, right? So it was like, you're going to, anytime you have a software as a service model or a streaming model that works like that, like you're gonna have to be used to losing a lot of money for like a really, really long time. So it was, even crazier when you think about it in that context.
Especially because you don't have like a storefront, right? Because at least with the movie theaters, there's a storefront that you have where, a lot of the money that they're trying to make is by selling you a $15 soda, So if they can get you in the building and maybe sell the movies at a cheaper price, I think the theory there is that you're going to buy product and make a profit for them. It's like similar to like a gas station. I mean, they don't make money off of the actual selling of the gas. They make money because you purchase other things while you're there. You don't have that same aspect though when you're talking about things like Game Pass or streaming. Like, what else can they sell you that wouldn't just irritate you and make you not want to subscribe anymore? You know what I'm saying? Like, they couldn't throw something in your face that would make you enjoy the movie more. It would just irritate you and you'd want to watch the movie instead, right? So that, I think that does make a pretty big difference too. You have to consider that, because if you're going to provide a premium package that you as a company are going to kind of fork out some money to make it happen, right? You need to have something that kind of supplements it. And I just can't think of how that would work for Game Pass.
I think that's what they were trying to do. I think the core issue with Game Pass as it is now, right? When I was, and this is obviously just an opinion that could be debated. But my opinion on that whole thing was like the early Game Pass was this cool kind of supplemental thing. But I never looked at it as like, oh, sweet, I'm not buying video games anymore. I kept buying game. I had the lower version of Game Pass. And then if I really wanted a game, I buy it, even if it would come out on the Game Pass. Because I'm like, well, hold on. How does that? That's just that's like my weird brain where it's like I understood at some level that like by just popping on the Game Pass and playing these AAA games that are brand new, like this can't be working. I'm paying $20 a month for this. Like, it's a $70 game. Like, and I can play a billion games. The math doesn't make any sense, right? But it does make sense if you keep it a little smaller and make it that kind of a cool, like, hey, if you buy an Xbox back in the day when Game Pass was a newer thing, the issue is they've never had both things at the same time. What they probably would have wanted would have been great first party games that they're releasing and selling for $70 and Game Pass as this cool exclusive supplemental thing where you can play a bunch of games you probably would never otherwise play. And if you're a patient, like Steam gamer kind of style thing where you're willing to wait for the sales, well, you wait a year, it'll be on the service. And like that felt like a thing that could have worked, but they trained the entire audience. Oh, no, don't worry about it. Yeah, Gears, Fable, day one, right? Yeah, just throw it on there. All they're gonna toss it. Yeah, it's on there. It's great. And then they're like, "Oh fuck, we can't pay for any of this stuff. We need you guys to buy the games." And it's just like, how is this our fault, man? Like, you guys are the ones doing this. So it's like,
I'm just taking advantage of the deal. It's you can't fault me for making a price conscious decision. No, I'm so
an
expensive.
Insane person. I'm crazy, right? Like I'm someone who's like, in my head, I was like, this doesn't make sense for the industry. And I'm the person who just bought a Recon shell skin pack for kind of an unreasonable amount of money, in my opinion, in Marathon, because I love that game and I want the game to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked about the late stage capitalism thing. The only way you can vote in this world is with your wallet. So I'm going to buy skins and I'm going to buy DLCs and I'm going to buy the game a couple of times on different platforms, because it's the same logic in my brain with the whole Game Pass thing. I was like,
it also feels like
I want to own this. Like, I don't want to, you guys need money. Like, I want you to make more of these. This game is good. So I'm going to buy this game, even though I can play it on Game Pass. So it just got off the rails. It got off the rails. They overestimated how much people thought that would be a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they had already lost to PlayStation, and that was not going to be enough to bring people over from PlayStation to Xbox. And here we are as a result of it.
Yeah, and I can't speak for you, but for me, it feels, it's funny you were just talking about that, but for me, it feels like a bit of a trauma response now with like the kind of the climate of the gaming industry over the last, 5 years or so. I've definitely felt the pressure more than ever now, where like when I really like a game, I'm like, all right, I need to just like buy up every bit of content that they have, because I want to like, please, like, don't get rid of this game. Like it's a bit of a trauma response for me now, where especially, we talked about Marathon, but like when you really like a game and you start hearing it's not doing well, it's like, well, now I feel like obligated. I need to buy all of the content now.
And I never want to be able to tell myself or anybody else or anyone else to tell me like that I didn't do my part as a customer to make sure it happened. Like, sure, maybe my $10 or whatever for a skin is not much money, but if there are enough people, it's just kind of like the same thing when you talk about voting, right? Everyone's like, oh, like my one vote doesn't count for anything. It's like, well, yeah, but if you and millions of other people keep saying that, then it's true. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whereas like if everyone just did it, you'd actually see more change. A lot of the problem is because we're not getting enough of that stuff. And so put your money where your mouth is, right? Like that's something that you're doing, Kyle, and so am I. We'll get back to Marathon. We do have a news article. I do want to read a little bit from this first article and then we'll move on. We're going to hear a lot from Paul Tassi today of Forbes, because he is, he's really in on the Bungie stuff. So we're going to come back to Bungie later, but he also has some good, simple articles. So I just wanted to make sure and credit him and Forbes for some of these articles, including this one. So I'm just going to read a little bit from this. Some of it's what we've already talked about, but just kind of a summary as we close this one out. Xbox CEO Asha Sharma has announced that Microsoft will lay off around 3,200 workers over the next fiscal year, with 1,600 roles being affected today alone. The cuts touch every studio and effectively every type of role within Xbox, which she deems, quote, unhealthy in her very blunt and transparent blog post. The fates of actual studios and games among all this are a bit surprising, however. As of right now, despite these cuts, there are no outright closures of studios and no cancellation of any publicly announced games. But the situations are varied. Here's what we know about the most affected studios. Double Fine has been spun out to become independent and will retain its IP. I'm going to say, this is going to be unpopular, potentially, because people know that I'm an Xbox person. They're like, the fact that none of these places are closing and a bunch of these studios, they managed to figure out a way to spin them off, and not just spin them off and get them out of Microsoft, but let them keep all of their IP is pretty insane to me.
Yeah.
And it feels like a very deliberate attempt to save as much face as possible, which is not very much. But they could have, I don't think anyone would have been surprised. Speaking of writing on the wall, we've said that phrase a few times now. If they had told me Double Fine, Compulsion, Ninja Theory, Undead, and Arcane are all closed, would anyone have ever been like, what? I mean, we'd have just been like, wow, yeah. I mean, this is horrible, but Xbox doesn't know what they're doing, and they just destroy everything. Instead, they seem to be finding ways kind of around it, which I think is interesting. So Double Fine has been around a long time. They've made lots of games, Psychonauts, more recently some like smaller games, much smaller games. So they're becoming independent, and they get to keep their IP, which I think is pretty crazy. Compulsion Games, so they made what was that name? South of Midnight. Yep. And what's the game that was very BioShocky that didn't turn out to be that good? Happy Few.
Yes. Yeah.
Same deal. I'm reading from the article now. Same deal. Now its own entity still keeps its IP. So it didn't close them down. I thought they were dead.
Yeah. Out of all the names listed there, I thought they were the one that was on the chopping block the most.
Yeah. This one's a big relief, but also my biggest bone to pick with Xbox. Ninja Theory, currently in talks to be sold. Plan is to still release Senua. Just to quickly take a little side note here. Sidebar, whatever. So Ninja Theory, they buy Ninja Theory in 2018. And I will say on Ninja Theory's part, they spent 7 years making an interactive movie that's like 4 hours long. That's their fault. And Xbox, Phil Spencer for just kind of letting everyone do whatever the hell they wanted to do with no direction.
Right.
But the thing that really pissed me off is that they showed Senua in their show. It looked fucking awesome. It's exactly what people wanted from a sequel to Hellblade, knowing that they were going to close the studio or sell it. Which to me is like that. I mean, that to me is like a bridge too far. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You announce a game and show it off, and they didn't tell Ninja Theory either. They were hoping that showing the game off would make it the studio more attractive to potential buyers. And Ninja Theory had no idea that they were about to be either closed or sold off by Microsoft. And so not only did they
That's the worst part.
Oh my God. They lied to their studio.
Yeah, that game
and
effectively doesn't exist.
Because in some aspect, if there was like communication prior to that and it was like, hey, we'll still show your game if you guys want to advertise it. If that conversation had been had, then I can see why you would want to do that. And it's not really that big of a dick move. But the fact that they were not aware of it is definitely the worst part.
That is, I mean, that's what makes it horrible. I still think that like if you're not sure if a game's going to even exist, you probably shouldn't show like a gameplay trailer at your big announcement. I don't know. That seems like a crazy thing, but yeah, I agree with you. The biggest part of that is the fact that they had kept the studio in the dark and told them after that. It's fucking crazy. Yeah. The next one is Undead Labs, currently in talks to be sold. Plan is still to release State of Decay 3. Someone from Undead Labs came out and they're like, we're going to make it for PS5. So, I mean, if I'm them, that's pretty great because you have a much bigger install base with PlayStation.
Yeah.
And Arcane. So this is the article, says this one is up in the air and there are many stages to go through with the French government for either closure, sale, or spinning off. So in this case, the fate of the upcoming Blade game is unknown. So in France, the government actually sticks up for their for each individual citizen and does not allow corporations to just summarily remove jobs and fire people without any reason or notice. It is not allowed. The federal government of France says, no, we will obliterate you if you do that. And so there's all these things they have to do and go through. They got to take care of their employees in all these ways. It's a bitch to lay off employees in France. It's supposed to be. So they have to figure all of that out if they're going to lay people off. It's going to take longer before we know what happens there. Okay, so that's pretty much all I want to read from this article. There is a lot more. It's a very good article. It's long and full of really great detail, so I would highly recommend it. There, he also includes Asher Sharma's full statement, which I thought was really interesting. It's also very long. It's kind of talking about how they're going to completely reorganize Xbox. And she talks about who's going to answer to who, which studios report to whom. The one thing she says is, we know that great technology gets better when it gets simpler, not bigger. Today, in some parts of the company, work passes through as many as 14 layers of management. Our platform teams are 40% larger than they were at the start of this generation. Even as our player base and playtime have declined, that complexity has slowed decisions, blurred accountability, and made it harder to deliver for players. As we reset Xbox, we will simplify. So basically, she's just saying there's just this massive layers of just bureaucracy and red tape and bloat. So I think it's very interesting. Her statement is it's like a book, and it is. I would highly suggest reading it if you get some time. I didn't want to read the whole thing. She closes out and she says, I want Xbox to be one of the few companies that entertains more than 1 billion people each day and gives everyone the opportunity to create and connect. I know we can achieve this goal. Xbox has many of the most beloved franchises in entertainment history, talented studios around the world, and we will return to growth in 2027. History is full of companies that mistake longevity for inevitability. We will not be one of them. Yeah. Just extremely candid, which I still appreciate, even though it's hard to appreciate anything when they're firing all of these like incredibly talented, long-standing industry people. But I would highly recommend both this article and reading her statement, because it's pretty interesting stuff. All right, we got to keep moving. PlayStation consoles to stop getting disc-based physical releases in 2028. Taylor, I want to hear what you have to say on this first. How about you kick us off on this, and we'll kind of do the same thing. We'll discuss it, and then I can read some stuff from this article that we have.
Yeah, I think we kind of preambled this a little bit earlier in the conversation by saying that, like, this shouldn't come as a shock to anybody. I think that, like, this is kind of the way that the industry has been pushing for quite a while. But that doesn't mean I have to like it. And I think it's an awful decision either way. I'm just not a fan of like this feeling that ownership is kind of going away. We've talked about the late stage capitalist hellscape that we're kind of living in now, and this is kind of a symptom of that I feel like things are getting more expensive to own. We're being kept in a cycle of perpetually renting and putting money into other people's pockets and not gaining any equity for ourselves. And I think that's true for like the housing industry, let's say, but also like it seems like it's kind of spinning off into every other aspect of our lives. Like our lives are just going to be on a streaming service full of movies and video games and TV and media that we don't own, that we can watch for a certain amount of time and then it's gone and then they got to get rid of it, right? So it's just kind of one of those things where I'm sad to see the option go away for this. And I hold out the small, meager hope that this is something that can possibly be turned around. But I feel like I'm less and less confident as the day goes on that this is something that is truly going to go back in the favor of the consumer. I mean, some of these other mediums, right, or these other entertainment mediums do have that option, right? Like we've seen a resurgence of vinyl records come back for the music industry, right? Like we've got streaming services for music, but if you truly want to own the record, you can go out and buy that CD or buy that vinyl record and still have that physically for, a collection. And, obviously you're probably going to be screwed, right, if we get hit with an EMP and there's no electricity. But like the fact of the matter is that doesn't go away. You can't have a company come into your house and retake back the vinyl that they sold you. And that's becoming increasingly prevalent in the games industry. I don't know if this particular article that we're referencing talks about the 500 movies or so that Sony also removed from people's accounts that people bought for their online digital collections, and then just were like, hey, that movie we sold you 10 years ago? Yeah, we're taking that back. You're not allowed to use that anymore.
Removed from their library.
Completely. Yeah.
No refund.
Nope.
I don't know any other medium that happens to, right, other than video games, and it's got to stop. There's got to be some kind of regulation. I think people definitely have to vote with their wallet on this one. I've become less and less confident in our ability to do that as a society as these things become more a part of our everyday life. But it just kind of sucks, man, to see physical media start to go the way of the dodo, and we all lose the ability to own things. And it's the quote that gets brought up all the time: you will own nothing and you will be happy about it. I don't want to do that. I want to fight against that as much as possible. And I think this is a horrible move. I would personally be okay with the option of providing a digital option for most people. And even if you made the physical copy more expensive, I would still buy it. If you wanted to sell your copy for like $100, let's say, but it came with a disc that had the game on it, it came with the actual physical case, that would be a price I would be willing to pay, even if it was just an option to do that. I think it would be pretty ridiculous to charge that much for a game, considering the fact that they're already $80, and digital codes are expensive, and they never go on sale. That's a whole aspect of it. This is just such a huge can of worms that it's like there are so many ways that this can go wrong. With Sony kind of controlling their own storefront, they don't feel beholden to put any of these games that are like 10 years old on sale, right? We've been seeing Nintendo do this for forever, right? So, it just sucks. I'm kind of stream of consciousness, just like weaving through negative thought after negative thought, but this just sucks, man. I don't like where this is headed. It's probably like second only to people losing their jobs and not having a way to feed their families, probably the most dystopian news of this entire thing. So yeah, totally. The only thread I want to pick up there specifically, and we'll keep going, and of course I'm going to pass it to you as well, Kyle. The thing you pointed out, Taylor, is the fact that you would be willing to pay X amount of money more to do that. And I think that says a lot in the sense that we're not people who like the physical games. Some people are unrealistic and don't understand how things work, and they are really upset about this, and they don't understand what's going on because they just don't pay attention to this stuff. So I'm really glad you said that, Taylor, because what I don't understand about this is these going 0 to 120. We understand as customers, I buy digital games all the time. I'm not some like anti-digital game person. I have a Steam library. I use Game Pass. I buy games digitally on Xbox and PlayStation sometimes. I buy digital games on sale a lot, all that kind of stuff. So this is not coming from someone who's like, oh no, like digital is evil and I'll never touch it. Like it. But can we be a little bit reasonable here? Yeah.
I understand it's a niche, but at least treat it like a niche. There's enough people. Charge a little more for it. Sell us the disc attachment at manufacturer cost plus margin. We're collectors. Like let it be a niche. Let it be a strength still that you can offer. And just the tone deaf kind of like, oh well, clearly you all like the digital stuff, so we're going to burn all of these discs. It's just like a weird, just like from like complete 180 on it. It really did surprise me that they're just like, nope, 2028, we're just done. Like never again. They're going to reverse this in some way at some point because there's money in physical games on some extent. There might not be money in the mass production, right? I get that. I get that not enough people are buying physical copies to have to sell them all to Walmarts and Targets and GameStops and split the cost with them and the manufacturing. Like, I get it. I totally understand it. But there is still money to be made. And it's really weird because who you're going after are like the most hardcore people in your audience. The people who still buy PlayStation games or Xbox games physically are the ones who are like their day one for games. And these are the most hardcore people that you are like immediately alienating. So very weird decision there to just completely axe it. Even though I just wanted to get across the point that it's like, we're not naive. Like, we're not saying that they shouldn't do any version of this or that the writing's not on the wall. We get it, but you don't have to do this. Kyle, what do you think about this whole thing, man?
Yeah, I'm kind of like torn because, I guess for me, like, I've never really been completely attached to the physical copies of games. I'm just kind of like bummed that the option wouldn't be available because I do kind of agree with you in the sense, like, I don't see why it wouldn't be possible to leave the option open for people who want to pay a little extra, whatever the cost may be, to like manufacture a physical case and send that out to a consumer. It's like, why would you not be able to at least allow that option of like, if I pay, I don't know, what do you think is reasonable? Like 15, 20 bucks?
It probably costs them a few dollars, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. Like, charge me $15 to like get a game case.
Mm-hmm. And a disc.
Is that a problem? Because a lot of people still like collecting. So that's my thing about it. I don't really mind it being digital. I do understand the fear behind them just yanking games whenever they lose licenses, but I think that would be a pretty rare circumstance when it comes to video games. And I can't imagine that would be a common practice. There would have to be like an actual reason, like losing the license of something, which
music in the game or whatever.
Right.
Like licensed music. Yeah, I mean, they're not gonna. They are trying to make money, so it wouldn't be a very good idea to just go around and just remove everyone's video games. It's less about that being the option. It's not like we think, oh, now they're gonna take us. It's just you set a precedent, right? You start with a small little thing that's not a big deal that affects not very many people, and these companies and these corporations are going to find every corner, every like nook and cranny, anything they can find to tear into pieces and sell you piecemeal. And it's not about like, oh, we think that you're going to remove all of our digital library. It's just the fact that it's like, well, we know that you can. So how are you going to use that in a way that will benefit you and hurt me without it being so over the top that you're just going to lose your customer? This slow, like degradation, right? It's tiny little pieces at a time. Like, oh yeah, like what if we do microtransactions? Like, what if we charge them back in like 2008? What if we charge them like a little tiny bit of money for like a skin? What if we, and then now look at it, right? It's like, we're going to talk about microtransactions here in a minute. So it's like, it's about the like, for me, it's like the scale and the slow change, just little bit by bit. And it's never so extreme that anyone is ever sitting around being like, oh man, this is the end of everything. But it's like, fast forward 20, 30 years. I don't know, maybe $70 only buys you the game for a year and then you lose access to it. Like, they get to dictate everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, another thing I want to throw out there too, Kyle, you were talking about the excellent point at the beginning of the show, talking about the kids coming up now, who are in those, unfortunate situations. They're like one parent household, can't really afford, games as often. Like, this also sets a really horrible precedent, I think, for the secondhand market, being able to trade in those games and buy them at a much, much lower cost. I mean, I do that all the time. There's a point now where I have games that like I know I'm going to get to eventually, but like I'm not going to buy a physical copy of it until it's at my local game store on the shelf for like $20 for the physical version to take home. Like, there are so many people I know, young and old across the spectrum, who, are a generation behind, who are like catching up on some of that stuff and catching up on some of those games, and having the physical product to be able to go somewhere else, buy that game and take it home and play it at a much, much reduced cost, I think is also a very understated part of this whole formula as well.
The fact that they're still sold physically allows them to exist, because that's a whole nother thing. You're talking about like game preservation. If a digital game comes out and it doesn't sell super well and it ends up being like a cult hit, like a Control, right? We've been talking about Control the last couple of weeks because I've been playing it and the new one's coming out. Control comes out. Let's say Control came out in 2030 and there's no physical copies of it and it doesn't do great. And eventually it doesn't get passed on to the next generation or whatever. Like you can't buy it anymore. It gets taken off of the marketplace. No one will ever play that game after 2050. It's just gone. It just doesn't exist anymore. But I can go into I can go into a Pink Gorilla in Seattle and I can buy Mortal Kombat from 1995 or whatever. And if I have an NES and I put it in there, it's still going to work. A game from 30 years ago. It allows them to continue existing and to continue being experienced by other people. And I feel like that's something that is the biggest threat, is like, as soon as these games are no longer available for sale on their digital marketplace for whatever reason, they're gone. They just vanish and can never be seen again or accessed again, unless you own a console where you have it downloaded onto or at least you have it in your library and you can download it, like that kind of thing. Sure. But how do you
There's not enough memory to hang on to everything, though.
Can't hang on to everything. And how do you share that with somebody else, right? How does a kid, I could let, a kid that maybe a 15-year-old, like my nephew's son, when my nephew's going to have a son eventually in the next few years. I think they're going to have a kid or a daughter or whatever. And what if they want to get into video games? And my nephew Riley grew up playing on my N64 and my original Xbox. And those things are really old now and they're not going to exist. And some of these digital versions of the games, they don't have to exist. If they're not serving a need to create profit, then there's no reason for them to be available on a marketplace digitally. So they'll just disappear and we'll never be able to access this stuff. But I just hope they can figure it out.
Think about even something too, like the classics catalog, right? That PlayStation has on their system, right? Like you can pay the extra subscription fee or whatever it is, and you can have access to a certain number of PS1, PS2, and PS3 games. But then I think of like the PS3, and they still haven't figured out how to like put that onto a digital service successfully yet. Like there are only like a handful of games on the PS3 that you could even access in that online catalog. They don't run well. So I think of like, bypass all of that bullshit and just go get your PS3, your fat PS3 for like less than $100 and buy the game you want to play, on the system it was meant to be played on, because like there are so many of these games on here that are just like broken.
Stranded.
Yeah. I think of something like Ape Escape 2. It's like one of my favorite games of all time. And like PlayStation has it on their PS2 catalog or whatever, but it's like horribly broken. Like you can't play it. And it's just like, I think about that scenario in so many different situations and how horseshit that is, that it's like they still can't even figure out the PS3 correctly. Like what makes you think like this bodes well for, and I'm speaking the royal you, of course, but like, how do you think this bodes for like the rest of putting like a classics catalog on there? And also like what's classic to you is not the same as classic to somebody else, right? So like 90% of that library on the PS3 isn't even going to be available. So what other alternative is there? I think about stuff like that too.
Yeah. It's just weird. It's just a weird, like really powerful move to just be like, we're just done. They're just fucking dead. I just can't imagine they're actually going to stick with that, but we'll see. Even if it's niche, like I'll pay more for it. I understand. I totally understand. And I'll buy a lot of games digitally. Like I said earlier, like we're not out of touch here. It's just a weird shift. I don't really even have anything to read from this article. I pulled up a Push Square article. This is basically sharing the quotes that Sony had, and Sony's making it sound like they're doing us all a favor. This is a natural direction for Sony Interactive Entertainment to adapt to consumer trends as the general preference for digital media significantly outpaces physical discs. This transition will enable us to align more closely with how most of our community prefers to access and play games today. It's like, all right, I mean, the only people you're not helping the people buying digital games. That's what I don't get. Like,
right. Yeah, like wait, I don't like how you spun that.
You're welcome.
The people who were getting digital games were not being restricted because other people were buying physical games.
Hey,
you
digital
didn't
buyers,
help anybody.
Those fucking losers are gonna be done.
Like what? I don't like how you tried to spin that. That was bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, they're just helping us out, dude. They're just helping us out. They're looking out for us. They're looking out for us.
It's all about alignment.
Slapping you in the face and then just giving you a little kiss right at the end.
Yeah. It's so funny.
We wanted you digital supporters to know we care about you more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I subscribe to Game Informer magazine. Like, I'm not over here thinking that magazines are the future. I like it. Like, I enjoy it. It's cool. And so far, it's worked for them. They must have enough people kind of doing it that they can create the magazine. And
yeah, the reasoning is kind of weird too, right? Because I mean, are you saying that selling physical games was not making you money? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it definitely will. I mean, not having physical games will increase. I mean, it makes sense. More people, the vast majority of people are buying digital stuff. And it does, every time you sell a boxed copy of a game at Target, you're having to pay the manufacturer, you're having to pay Target a slice, and you're having to pay the developer if it's not a first-party game as well. Mm. So, and the publisher. So it just eats away at your. It definitely does cost them more.
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious to know how much it was eating away, because I just can't help but feel like most people that I know that buy physical copies are doing it because they want to collect it.
Yeah,
I don't know very many people that are like somebody who really wants a game and wants to play it right away. They almost always buy it digitally. I just can't imagine it was really eating into their profit that much.
Yeah, I
mean, not to the effect that it's not like they're losing money like they would be on hardware, right? Like now everybody is worried about well, we want to make hardware, but we don't want to sell it at a loss.
The profit margin
software that they're selling
increases.
Is make no mistake, they are not selling even the physical edition of these games. They are not selling at a loss.
No.
But it's just a matter
it's
of
the profit margin they want to increase, right? I understand that concept. What I'm saying though is that you have to also consider as well that there are plenty of people who have the digital version and then also buy the physical copy, right? Or the special edition on top of that, right?
Or I did that for Resident Evil 9. So,
the remastered version or enhanced version. It's just you have to consider all of that into it as well, is that in some aspects you're actually doubling your profit because you allowed a physical copy to be there, because most people are wanting that tangible thing. I don't know. I'm not buying.
It's admittedly a small group, but they do exist, and I just don't understand the reason for being fuck those guys. It's we have people who are so hardcore about this, they buy this game twice. Not anymore.
It was something that was naturally dying off anyways, so I don't even think you needed to close the door. You know?
Thank you. I mean, this is exactly what we're saying. I'm not even really saddened by the fact that these games are being removed from Target and Walmart or whatever. It's it truly is writing on the wall. 85 to 90% of people are buying digitally. I'm all about it. But just the idea that it's why don't you just make enough for GameStop or whatever, just to kind of to be there, or for whatever game, or somewhere, Costco, some specific place where it's oh, this is the place you can still go to get physical games, for us dweebs that want them. That's all I want. I'm not asking I expect this. I expect to walk into fucking Circle K and buy a video game physical copy. I don't expect them to be at all the big places anymore. I wouldn't want to pay Walmart for millions of copies or whatever, or hundreds of thousands of copies of I do get it. I understand that part of it, but just it's just the going all the way to the other side and just being like, just removing it, just cut it, just decapitating physical games makes no sense to me. Like, you could still sell them to the people who really want to buy them brand new. Let us pre-order them. Dude, PlayStation, for their games, like, sell it to me directly. When the next Ghost game comes out, or Last of Us Part 3 or whatever, like, I would pre-order a physical copy of the PlayStation 5
from the PlayStation Store.
From the PlayStation Store. Hell yeah. I'm not even asking for that much. Like, I get it. You don't have to sell it at the big department stores. I understand completely. But like, to just completely remove the option from existence is fucking wild to me.
Yeah. I mean, for I would imagine a pretty small profit margin is my issue with it, right?
Right.
Because you were already making money. You're just like, well, we want 25 more cents on it.
But we're not making quite enough money on those to make it worth it.
I don't know.
Yeah, totally agreed. All right, we're getting through this, guys. This is another tough one. Here we go. We're going back to Paul Tassian Forbes. This guy does. He puts YouTube videos up, just like kind of commentaries as well. He's like very in on Bungie and Marathon and Destiny and all that. Like, he's very knowledgeable of all that. So I wanted to use his article for this. So the title of the article says, Bungie hit with widespread layoffs as Destiny 2 ends and Marathon continues. So exact numbers have not been given as of yet, but I have previously learned that the target is around 50% of the studio, with a potential range of 40 to 55%. That would be several hundred people at least. As the statement says, its future projects are in early incubation, where I've previously reported that nothing else has been greenlit yet, meaning only Marathon is in active development. Here's the statement from Bungie. Quote, with great sadness, we are announcing a reduction in force as we reorganize Bungie. As the leaders of Bungie, past and present, we recognize Destiny 2 fell short of expectations these past several years. Following our final content update to Destiny 2, and with our future projects still in early incubation, we unfortunately could not continue operating at our previous size. We know this decision has a profound impact on the people affected, their families, friends, and teammates. While these changes are necessary to best position the studio now and for the future, that does not lessen the difficulty of this moment or the impact it has on those affected. Later, we will share more about that future with you all, but today is not that day. Today, we wish to extend our gratitude and compassion to every member of the Bungie team who has been impacted, and to those who remain. We hope you will do the same. Unquote. You guys know who Jason Jones is?
Sounds familiar.
He's one of the original Bungie people.
Yeah.
He is
back to Halo.
A founder of Halo. He is a pillar of Bungie, and he got laid off. So this is what I was talking about earlier. It's these are not just people that they just hired during COVID that are working from home or whatever. They are destroying these studios. These studios are being absolutely just gutted. People who make Bungie what Bungie is are getting laid off. They did talk a little bit about Marathon. So to keep reading from the article, some members of Bungie have already been moved over to Marathon before this. Many Destiny 2 devs have been sitting around with little to do after Monument of Triumph, not even allowed to work on more than a scarce handful of hotfixes. Information is now coming in via internal emails sent by PlayStation head Herman Holst that most of the Destiny team is gone. Some Marathon devs are cut, and some SIEs, it's Sony Interactive Entertainment, staff working on Bungie support have been laid off as well. Bungie has not been able to get a new game greenlit, and even if it does, that would start with a very small team and not need hundreds of people on it immediately. Now, there will be several hundred people left to work mainly on Marathon, the extraction shooter that has not met expectations since launch and continues to bleed players. Bungie is now pulling out all stops to attract new players, including the launch of an upcoming dedicated PvE mode. While it may not be the end of the road for Bungie and its relationship with its current owner, Sony, it is easily the darkest day of this era. Sony paid $3.6 billion for Bungie, which is fucking insane, and has taken impairment losses against it to the tune of $700 million. That still values it as a $2.9 billion asset, but it's hard to see how that's possible now. Marathon should never have been put in the position to keep Bungie afloat with Destiny 2 completely dead, but that's where things have ended up. The future of Bungie is entirely uncertain now, with an unclear runway timeline for Marathon and what Sony may plan to do with the studio, whether it's a total shutdown, reassignment to other parts of the company, or perhaps the remote chance of further investment if new projects take shape. Today, however, will be a brutal moment for the studio. And that's the end of the article. Kyle, how about you start us on this one, man? I don't know. Just let me know your thoughts after hearing all that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that we need to peel back there. I still want to know more information because I want to know whose decision it was to like destroy Destiny in order to create Marathon. Because I'm not understanding how this all came about. And no wonder nothing else is being greenlit because Marathon's barely hanging on, which is unfortunate. I'm really sad because, in my opinion, they actually came out with a fantastic game at the worst possible fucking time. Mm-hmm. You know? So if Marathon ends up fading away because of this, I will be really upset. And this would probably keep me out of, multiplayer games for pretty long time if I ever come back to it. I'd probably just would return back to League of Legends at that point because I know it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, ESO for me. Yeah.
This would be a pretty bad overall experience for me. It's not even really about the money for me. I'm throwing in the money because I have the spare money to do so. I'm not really tied to that in a sense, but it's really just about I haven't really felt this great about a game in a long time. And so the fact that it's not working out and the company's just going to fall apart because they put all their chips into this, and I'm just frustrated with the business strategy here. I'm not sure what the plan was. I mean, were they told that pick one or the other, and they were like, we're going to create a new IP and try to save ourselves with this? I mean, what was the idea here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really even understand. Well, okay, the first thing we should, and Taylor, I'm going to pass this to you in a minute. I guess the first thing, or one thing to establish that I think is kind of a root cause of all this is like, why would you ever even want to end Destiny in the first place? It's an ongoing game. You didn't have to end it. You could have just kept. They had some of the previous DLCs were not as well loved. I think the last one people really enjoyed, but a few of the ones before that were worse and worse, and like a lot of the community was kind of upset. But they were still there, and they're upset that it's gone now. I think the reason that this is not working is because this studio is in Bellevue, fucking Washington. I mean, all of these studios that are in the United States, and specifically like the West Coast, where cost of living is really high because people want to live there, it's just really hard. It's really hard to make a AAA game when you're paying every single employee no less than $100,000. Like the bottom employees are making six figures.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that becomes harder and harder because these games get more complicated. So you need more people, and they all cost an arm and a leg because they're living in fucking Bellevue, Washington, which is the home of Microsoft. It's the rich, extremely rich area. So a lot of the people who work there probably don't even live in Bellevue. They probably live in like Linwood and Mukilteo and Tacoma and shit. Even with $150,000, I mean, you need to make like $250,000 to like live a nice life in the Bellevue, Seattle area. Like own a decent home, like a large home with room for the family and a backyard. I mean, that shit is insanely expensive. In that whole area. And that's true for most of the US at this point. So it's like, I think that's at its core, it's not brought up in this article at all. At least I didn't see it, but like, it's incredibly expensive to make these games in the US, and it's becoming harder. And so I feel like they probably couldn't keep making Destiny and Marathon and everything and of course they somehow managed to get themselves sold for $3.6 billion. It's like, how could Bungie be worth that much money? How is that even possible? So it's also Sony's fault, kind of like Microsoft, for just for just paying these insane amount of money for this shit. Like,
that was quite the sales pitch.
Of course they aren't worth that much. Like, what? I don't know anything about their books, and I could have told you they weren't worth that much. Anybody could have told you they weren't worth that much. What the fuck are you guys doing? Yeah. Who's making these decisions? That they make these decisions, and then it just costs all these people their jobs. It's fucking insane. Taylor, you from everything you heard there, and just Marathon and Destiny and everything happening there, just tell me what you're thinking, man.
Yeah, well, I think to go back to the question that Kyle was asking earlier, I think is a very poignant question, is like, what was kind of the plan for Bungie to have these two games running at once? And I think from my perspective, the plan all along was to retain the size of the studio and have Destiny be sort of your main breadwinning franchise. And then Marathon was kind of like the little spin-off that was supposed to kind of make money on top of that they would have, 50 people working on or something like that. It wasn't going to cost too much overhead for them to move people over. And I honestly could have seen a world where the plan at one point in time was to have Bungie as a studio be like 80% dedicated to Destiny 3, let's say, and then have like 20% of the team working on something like Marathon, and kind of have those two things working in tandem. But I think just the money lost overall, kind of like you mentioned, Ian, I mean, the team costs a lot, the location costs a lot. So I think that was kind of the plan from my perspective, was from the beginning, was to have both games kind of running concurrently, and then to spin up a Destiny 3, or just kind of take the number out of it completely and just make it Destiny, right? Like we saw like something like Overwatch do that, where they came out with Overwatch 2, and then like a year and a half into its lifespan, they were like, let's just get rid of the number. This is like a long running live service game that doesn't need to have a number attached to it. You've already removed Overwatch 1 as it was anyway. So that was kind of where I thought the plan was going for all along. But yeah, I mean, awful news. I mean, like you guys, I think that Marathon is one of the best games I've played this year. It's definitely, like, when all is said and done, going to be in my top 5 games of the year. I mean, it's an exceptional video game for, from a multiplayer standpoint, and just a lore single player tidbit standpoint as well. I think it's, exceptional in all those ways, and just sucks. I mean, you mentioned earlier, Ian, we're losing out on the talent. Some of these guys that have been around for a long time are not going to be working in the games industry, more than likely. A lot of them are probably going to go work at some software company and build like property tax valuation software or some bullshit like that. So it just sucks. We're missing out on so much that isn't immediately seen, when the curtain comes up for some of these companies. And that's really the sad part for me, is the loss of the talent here. Because this has been such a long running series with hit after hit after hit, when it comes to just like critical darlings. So yeah, just sucks to see, man. It really kind of was one of those studios that I thought, like, from a money making perspective, wouldn't be the one going away, right? Like, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, who are some of the studios are absolutely safe, like Bungie would have been the ones, right? Yeah. Like Destiny just kind of seemed too big to fail at one point in time, and so, we were wrong.
And now it's like, if 5 years, if you ask me, 5 years from now, if you told me that Bungie is gone completely, I would be like, that's very, very possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Kyle?
I was just wondering, I had a question because I don't really pay attention to it that much, but I mean, did Destiny fail? Because it sounded like to me it was doing okay and they just shut it down.
I think they were just, so like I was saying, like some of the final releases did not do as well. They were not reviewed as well, and they didn't like them as much. And also kind of the late stages of the game, the install was getting too big, and so they went and they removed all of the introductory story content from the game. So as a new player, because if you're going to be an MMO of sorts, you need to bring new people on, even years in. I mean, there are new people try ESO out all the time, or World of Warcraft or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they have a legacy. Getting rid of all of the story that the game that introduces the player to the game is probably not the best idea. That's kind of a point I was going to make, is like, I'm not going to be an apologist for Sony here or Microsoft. I kind of made this point earlier with Microsoft as well, like a Ninja Theory. At the end of the day, it is these megacorps that are just kind of destroying everything. But if you want to be a little nuanced about it, like Bungie has completely face planted. It is also their fault. The leadership, the leadership of these, like I was saying with Ninja Theory, they spent 7 years making a 4-hour game, right? Like the creative leadership has been a disaster to some extent, because the decisions they've made, and there was some talk about like one of the big heads at Bungie just being like a total piece of shit, and like talking about all the cars that he owned while he was like firing people, like laying people off, and like there's a lot of stuff going on at Bungie that is not great. There's clearly not the happiest place to work over the last few years. Things have been tough, so I feel like Bungie's sort of like the way it's seen by its community was just not quite as good. And it felt like the momentum was slowing down. Apparently it had a terrible onboarding process. It was really complicated. So
yeah, I can speak to that. I've tried to play Destiny several times, and I'm a big MMO guy. And I was like, I can't.
And it's a good game too. It's a good shooter. Like it feels good to play.
And I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. Like each of the times I've played.
They had no introductory content or anything, so like they got rid of all the game that made it the game. It was all gone. So you just sort of like showed up at the city there with and there's the traveler, and you just kind of like walk around and just start doing. It just didn't make any sense. And there's all these different kinds of currency in the game that you earn, and it's like, wait, what's what? And all these, it's just not clear. So it's just like new players were bouncing off, so they weren't growing anymore. So I just think it's just sort of like a person, like an organism. It just kind of naturally died. But I feel like they could have fixed it. Like that was the thing for me. It's like you could have turned this around.
I think one of the things too, I know quite a few people that played Destiny pretty heavily, and the story that I always heard as to what was going on was they basically released an expansion that was kind of like the wrap up of like what Destiny 2's like overarching story was. Like they had their Avengers Endgame moment where it was like the grand crescendo of that particular story had kind of come to a head. Like we wrapped up a bunch of stories with a bunch of different characters. And then basically after that, it kind of felt like the Destiny player base had gotten the ending that they wanted from Destiny 2. So they were kind of expecting like, okay, like now this is where you would release Destiny 3. But instead of doing that, they released a couple more expansions that kind of tried to bring everything back up again. The stakes aren't as grand, right? The story isn't as compelling. You already feel like you defeated the big bad of like the Destiny universe.
It's like Mass Effect Andromeda.
I was exactly where I was going to go with it, man.
So
I was like, this sounds like Andromeda.
Right. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, I think the plan at one point in time was like, after seeing like precipitous, sales falling off of these other expansions coming out and not living up to the final shape, which was the expansion that everybody was like, okay, this is a great ending. I think that they were shutting the game down to be like, okay, we're working on Destiny 3 now, because that's kind of like the next logical place that we're supposed to go to. And then unfortunately this kind of happened. So that's kind of the story that I heard.
Yeah, then they sold themselves for $3.6 billion and became an albatross around Sony's neck.
It's a horrible excuse in my opinion, because my thing is you need to be planning that way ahead of time, right? You need to know when exactly Destiny 3 is going to come in. You need to know that story when that comes to, when that comes together and all everything's kind of wrapped up in the story, right? You need to know that this is where we come out with Destiny 3. It's not we're going to shut it down and then we're going to start developing Destiny 3. That doesn't even make any damn sense. So
yeah, not at all. That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is like, it seems like the idea was to try to shift gears and make a new game, and they didn't want to keep doing Destiny anymore, is what it sounded like, because there was a pretty big fan base that was still playing Destiny 2 quite a bit, despite those DLCs maybe not hitting as well. The fan base was still there, so it didn't make any sense to me at all that the idea was we're going to shift gears to Marathon, which by all means, what I'm saying, when I say that, I like Marathon a whole hell of a lot more. I think it's a better game, in my opinion. Of course, with that being said, I haven't played a whole lot of Destiny.
Very different.
Very different.
Very different.
But if creating this game that I love so much is going to destroy the game studio and I'm no longer going to have the game, I don't want it then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. To your point there about there's no way you didn't have something planned, right? There's no way Sony spends that kind of money not having been told that there's a big plan for Destiny 3. Because if I'm Sony, any reason you'd even consider buying Bungie is because they have Destiny, which is a largely successful, well-known IP that has a continuous. That's what Sony. This was all part of Sony's, like when they were just desperate for live service. They were making their own studios make shitty live service games, and they were just anything they could. They're like, okay, we'll buy Bungie. Bungie, you got Destiny, you know how to do it, and you do it. Just tell us how to make these games. And you can kind of see it. Like Bungie was clearly like, oh yeah, like Destiny 2 is this massive success, and we have this many concurrent players, and this is our plan, our roadmap, and this is going to be, we're going to have a third one or whatever, maybe like Taylor said, but we're actually going to kind of re-release and have this big, here's all these plans. And then you get there and you're like, oh, they didn't actually do any of that work. Well, don't worry. Marathon is going to be this like excellent game that's going to just these promises. Clearly they sold themselves very well. And then when you got to there, they realized that they didn't do any of that shit and they didn't know what they're doing.
That's why
fumbling left and right and just face planning.
That's why
bad leadership.
I think it's bad leadership from both ends, right? From Sony and from Bungie. You've got Bungie leadership that's overselling and doesn't really have a plan put together. And on the other end of it too is Sony is just not doing enough research and digging into the details before they drop 3.9, or did you say 8?
3.6. Yeah.
Does it matter?
It's way more than they've ever been worth.
Who cares about the decimal there?
It's like an NFL team with like a bunch of incredible players, like Hall of Fame level players, and just like a shit owner and a shit GM and an awful head coach.
Yeah.
Like if you had a bad head coach and a bad owner, like as far as, we can say what you want about Robert Kraft and the Patriots, but like from a perspective of owning and operating a organization that succeeds, they were really good at that. Like, can you imagine if they had like just garbage, right? And like they had all these great players. That's what Bungie is. It's like at the top, it's just horrible. And you've got all these supremely talented people making all of these badass games, and it just doesn't matter. Like they're not hitting, because you didn't set yourself up for success from a leadership standpoint and a planning standpoint.
Tough.
All right. We got a few more, but these are smaller. This one was crazy. I could not find like a legitimate, but like I could not find like a big gaming news article on this. And I think that's very interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah. This is from yardbarker.com. It's like a sports website. EA Sports College Football 27 already facing backlash over microtransactions. It's the article opens up with, it's in the game. Well, almost all of it. The video game EA Sports College Football 27 releases worldwide on Thursday, but some lucky content creators have already played it. One shared a major complaint that threatens to ruin its reception. On Tuesday night, college football content creator Bordeaux, also known as James Bordeaux, ripped EA for including microtransactions in the game's Road to Glory and Dynasty modes. He also posted a YouTube video accusing EA of lying, quote-unquote lying, about their inclusion and urging fans to boycott the game using the hashtag CFBPlayDon'tPay. And then this is quoted from his Bordeaux's video. I don't like being blindsided by microtransactions and removing features hidden behind all the shiny new stuff. He wrote while sharing a screenshot of a microtransaction on X, Twitter. I like this game a lot. The developers did a great job. Whoever made the microtransaction decision did not. I watched this guy's video. It's really good. This is a EA insider. This is someone who is paid by EA to promote the game and preview the game, and they get early footage and they get flown out to Orlando where it's developed and kind of given the red carpet treatment. A lot of these guys are kind of maligned by independent YouTubers as shills, but a lot of them. So EA. So let me just kind of explain what happened here because I've been watching all this stuff. So here's what EA did in the previous 2 college football games, and I'm going to assume we'll see. I'm going to assume similarly in Madden, but in the previous 2 college football games, your coach, if you play in Dynasty mode, which is like franchise, or your player on Road to Glory, which is like the creative player one, gains experience like any role-playing game as you win games and achieve goals throughout your playthrough. And if you wanted, you can go into the settings of Dynasty or Road to Glory, and you could adjust how much XP you get for achieving these goals. So you could turn it up to fast or fastest. So it was slower, slow, normal, fast, fastest. So if you wanted maybe to reach the top level for your coach in like 2 seasons or 3 seasons or whatever the rate was, you could do that because maybe you just don't have enough time to play 10 seasons of franchise mode, and you just kind of wanted to see how the upgrade trees worked and like what did what, and just kind of explore the game. This year, that meter goes slower, slow, normal. There is no fast or fastest. However, an option to purchase with real money extra XP to gain the same amount of upgrade speed that you would in the last couple of games by just turning up the XP amount is now replaced it. So they have now monetized the single player portions of this game to either force you to grind out experience, which takes a lot longer and really reduces the level of fun, including especially in Road to Glory, which is the one where you make your own player and you play through 3 or 4 years of college football and then go to Madden or whatever, and you get drafted to the NFL, that whole thing. The players, like, you come out and you're like a 58 overall player, and like so far through simulations and stuff, people have figured out like you're getting to like barely level 80 by the time you're done, by the time you're a senior. Like your overall rating is like barely, because you can't turn up the amount of experience you gain for the milestones because you have to pay for it, and it costs like $50 to get up to, if you wanted to just do it immediately, like from day one to go from 58 to 80 overall, $50 or it's like $120 or something like that to go up to the max level instantly. So, and then what makes it worse is that when EA was giving early access to their insiders, so I don't know if you guys watch much of the YouTube community, but there's some good insiders that are not necessarily shills. Guys like Eric Rayweather, this Bordeaux guy, a few others. They did not tell them about this. So these guys are out here previewing the game and discussing all the good things. And there's one thing that's going to make this even worse for you guys here in a minute. They didn't tell their own insiders. And so a lot of them are extremely upset. And to their credit, to a bunch of guys' credit, these people make a living by doing this, and EA is a big part of their living. They came out and they were like, absolutely not. Bordeaux, nice. Eric Rayweather, they are all coming out like, this is just not okay. This is not acceptable. This is the start of a horrible trend. We were lied to. We were betrayed. Like, I feel like I betrayed my audience because I was telling them that this game was actually finally good and I was really enjoying it, and I was trying to tell you all this stuff. And now this comes out. People have already pre-ordered the game because they watched my content, only to find out that this is in there and they didn't tell us. Like, really bad. And then EA responded today, actually. So today's Wednesday, July 8th. And basically said there's no plans to change anything. They're just going to, like, they don't care, and they're going to let it blow over, which we'll see. I mean, we'll see. EA has backed down before when they've really fucked up, like Battlefront 2 and stuff like that. So the only thing else I'll say before I hand it over to you guys is that also apparently this game is like actually good. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Soft Drink TV. He's one of the most popular kind of critics of EA Sports, specifically the football games. He has some videos on YouTube with like millions and millions of views, and like it's something like the 88 features that are no longer in Madden that were in Madden 08 or whatever it was. Like he just goes really in depth discussing. He's very good, and just showing like everything that has been wrong with the gameplay and all that. He is hypercritical. I don't think he's given any Madden or college football game like higher than like a 4 or 5 in every single year out of 10, like year after year. And he's not one of these guys who's like just angry and making money off of just being angry and negative. Like he's very constructive in his feedback, and when things do go well, he will point them out, but the games have not been good. And I was watching his review, and he's like, this is the best football game that EA has made in a long time. Like, it looks really good. It plays much better. The depth of features in Dynasty and Road to Glory are way more interesting. There's so much more to do between games. Like they really did a lot of work. So he's like, feels bad for the developers because this is the first time where it feels like they finally lived up to some of their promises. He said he'd probably give the game like a 7 or an 8 out of 10 if it weren't for the microtransactions. So, and that's what I'm hearing from all these guys. They're like, no, this was like legitimately the first like pretty good EA football game in like the last 15 years. And of course, it's ruined by this. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts on that. You have the whole background. Taylor, let's start with you, man. I know you've been kind of off of the football train for a while. I know Kyle's going to have a lot to say about this. So I just kind of want to get your take on this, knowing all of that.
Yeah. Well, I'll start off by saying this, gentlemen. There's only 3 things that are guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and a sports game having awful, shady bullshit plugged into it. So this definitely doesn't come as a surprise to me. Kind of like you said, Ian, I've been pretty tapped out of sports games for quite some time. I can't even remember actually the last time I played like a Madden or anything like that. I will say the last time I was decently interested in a sports game was the return to college football that happened a couple of years ago. I never ended up getting to play it, but I knew several people who did play it, and they had great things to say about it. So
yeah, 25 was solid.
It seemed like they kind of had a return to form, but I guess the big takeaway for me, I won't have like a ton to say about this particular one, but it's very reminiscent of the Redfall situation a couple years ago. If you guys remembered that, where they invited a bunch of people out to play Redfall, and they had a lot of the press and stuff playing on these like super souped up computers that were able to like run things as best as they could, and then the final product releases and it's nothing like that. So you had a lot of people like I remember Mr. Matty Plays had to do like a ton of damage control because he was like, guys, I'm telling you, the version that I played was not nearly as broken as this ended up being. And he ended up kind of losing some credibility with his audience, by no fault of his own, just for the fact that, I forget who made Redfall. Was that Arcane?
Arcane, yeah.
Yeah. So through no fault of his own, just the fact that like they wanted to kind of shield how bad it truly was from the rest of the public. So I do love that it sounds like some of these insiders are kind of standing up to EA and pushing back on a lot of this stuff, because I think it keeps people like us out even more. This is definitely a game that should be catered to somebody like me and my demographic, right? But like, I'm not coming back, and this doesn't make me want to return any sooner, right? So it just kind of sucks. It seems like the last couple years, I won't say like EA was like winning over like consumers or like doing their best, but they definitely didn't seem as shady as they had used to be. Like the EA of 10 years ago didn't seem like the EA of the last couple years. So it sucks to hear, I guess, that they're kind of returning to their old bag of tricks. So it's unfortunate. would love to play a college football game at some point in time and pick it back up, but I just have no
a football
interest.
game.
Yeah, and this doesn't, I'm not rushing to come back to it now after something like this. So.
Which is, it's true. I'm not going to buy it now. And the thing is, this may have been the first one that I was going to pay full price for, because like the reviews from people who are extremely critical are very positive until this came out. So that's tough. Like I may have actually bought this at full price potentially, because I really am desperate for a great football game. And so this is disappointing. Kyle, go off, man. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like classic EA, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I already was not interested in the game, so this already makes it like even more so. Oh, I got to pay more for a game that I'm not really. I'm sure
almost is the cost of the game.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't want to really give too much credit to the people who are speaking out against it, because at the end of the day, they're still promoting a game that they know is pretty average. I mean, maybe this game could be a little bit better, but we're talking about a 7 or an 8 out of 10 is considered a great game. That tells you a lot about how bad those games have been for a long time. So I just have a complete and like total and utter lack of respect for EA as a whole, and the amount of effort and work that they put into games and the amount of profit that they expect to come out of it. With that being said, to me, really, I'm just kind of like, this is just a consumer issue, in my opinion. People are buying garbage games at a pretty premium price over and over again without questioning.
Yep.
And so until that gets fixed, I mean, I sound really frustrated because I am. It's like, I'm not even really just blaming EA. I'm just blaming the entire community as a whole. You guys need to stop paying into this garbage, because this is the type of stuff that you're going to get. And it's very clear to me that EA's concern is not about making a good game. It's about maximizing profit. And as long as their focus continues to be that, these games are never going to be that good anymore.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, this would have been, had I bought this one at full price, it would have been the first time that I bought a football game at full price. I don't know. I don't remember. The Game Pass gets you the 10-hour free trials, so I've been able to kind of test them out. But I don't even want to do that with this crap, knowing that like they've basically cut natural progression of your character at the knees. So
charging for a slider is insane to me.
In a single player mode, I mean, that's the one thing is like, yes, the expectation based on previous experiences. Of course, there's microtransactions, but like that's one area that they had not gone into. A lot of the reason we thought that the franchise and dynasty modes in these games had gone to the wayside is because they weren't microtransacted. They weren't making like the ultimate team garbage. That's their gambling thing. That's where they make all their money. And so they weren't putting effort into fixing franchise because you can't put microtransactions in this single player offline mode of the game, but they figured out a way to do it. And of course, now that they're doing that, now they're paying attention to it and they're adding stuff that looks pretty fucking cool. And the animations are starting to look better and they're adding more equipment in and their presentation is better. And the announcers are getting better and they have a sideline reporter and they have all this stuff that I've always wanted from these football games. I've been watching footage. It looks great. It looks, apparently they've gotten better with like the AI is actually better now, like truly getting better. And like the gameplay feel is getting better and the offensive line stuff looks like it's getting, I mean, they're actually doing it. They're actually improving the game. And then they just fuck it all up. And that's the part that frustrates me is like, you almost had me for a 1-year full price demo to see if you're, to really see, like I was going to put my money where my mouth is. If they make a good football game, I'll buy it. Because I haven't bought a full price. I've been buying these games at like deep discounts, like, when the seasons are over and they're like 70% off. Like I've been buying them to try them out at $25 or whatever. But that's the only time I bought them because I just refused to pay full price for them. And I wonder how many people would have paid full price if that wasn't in there. Because outside of that, it seems like the game is they're actually putting effort into it.
It's going to sell like crazy.
Oh, for sure. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like there might be a kind of like the physical copies per people, right? Like there is a large group of people that probably won't buy it now that would have, but yeah, the kids will buy it.
Maybe. I don't have faith in our consumers. The
kids will buy it for sure.
Sorry, you might be listening and be one of those consumers, but I'm not going to hold back on that take at all.
No, I wouldn't.
I think it's safe to say our audience and the the hardcore Madden, you know, guys who buy it every year don't have a ton of crossover.
You're still buying Madden every year, Call of Duty every year at full price.
$70.
Yeah,
like
you're the
you
problem.
know what you're doing.
You're the problem right now. And so for me, it's just like I do care. Obviously, that's why I'm like visibly emotional about it. But with that being said, I just couldn't. I just want EA to just be dismantled. Like, if any, like, listen, after all the dark news that we've gone through, if you would have told me that EA was one of those companies that got gutted, I would have been actually happy about that.
Well, that would have sucked because
they only
the
got
developers
richer.
are. The developers
I'm sorry,
aren't
the
bad
developers
guys.
can go somewhere else. EA is a problem. Like, I want EA to actually die.
Well, now they're part of the Saudi wealth
even worse.
fund thing now. So
Yeah.
you could probably expect even worse.
Yeah, now they'll probably like execute gay people at halftime or something. I mean, that's what Saudi Arabia would want to do.
Yeah,
fucking evil ass country. Not everyone who lives there, but a lot. The people who rule the country. Just terrible. Okay, last thing, guys. This is kind of a combo. Two things, but they're related. Valve's Steam Machine got released. The price is released. And we also found out about Xbox console prices going up again, another $100. But these are kind of similar things to me. Valve Steam Machine comes out. It's $1,049 for the, was that a 1 terabyte or a 512 gigabyte?
That's 512
gigabyte.
No controller.
No controller, and it is $1,349 for a 2 terabyte with a controller.
That's right.
And this is a console like.
You can also
Steam
get the
machine.
512 with the controller for $11.28.
Oh, for $11.28. Oh, okay, that's a screaming deal.
$80 controller.
I mean, this thing can't hold a candle to like a base PS5. I mean, it can hold a candle, but like if I don't know if you've seen some articles, like Valve is like, well, you might be able to run games in 4K, like maybe. I'll read this. This is an article, gamesindustry.biz. John Hicks, the writer. Early reviews from critics have been positive, citing the design and form factor as particular highlights. But the price means it will not be competitive with PS5 and Xbox Series consoles, as some had hoped. They're like not available, so they're you couldn't buy one if you wanted to, anyways. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't really know who this is for. Honestly.
It's so crazy how far we've come along, because I remember when we were first talking about the Steam Machine, I was so pumped. It was at a perfect time where it was like, fuck Xbox, man.
Yeah.
They come in and they swoop us and take us away off our feet. We've got a new girlfriend now. And as long as, she comes in at a reasonable price here, which now that I use that analogy sounds really terrible. I was excited for it, because especially if they can come at it with a reasonable price. But like you're saying, it's like the hardware is not that good.
It's not great at all.
A PlayStation, albeit these consoles are going to go up in price, they're still a whole hell of a lot cheaper. Why would I buy this?
Yeah, there's no reason.
Why would anybody buy this?
Other than just really wanting, if you just don't have either of those and you already have a massive Steam library and you have a lot of money to spend, I guess.
I think it still makes sense for some people, but I think that there was a there was definitely a sweet spot as far as price was concerned that I don't think they hit for this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to some degree, I got to think that even on some level, even with a massive Steam library, I think this could still be viable for some people who really want to drop the money on it. Not only that, but like you also have to think about the fact that like you are getting software at a much cheaper price as well. You know, you think about the constant Steam sales that Valve has where they're selling games at criminally cheap prices, and not only that, but like you also get kind of the second-hand digital market that we'd want for all of the other consoles as well. Like if Steam isn't selling it for the price that you want, you can go to any number of these Steam key resellers or whatever who will sell you the game for a cheaper price anyway too. And that's not something you get with something like a PlayStation or Xbox. So yeah, I think this would have been, for me anyway, an instant buy if it was priced like in like the $700 to $800 range. $1,000 definitely gets to a point where it's like, now the real question is, what is kind of stopping you from just building a PC with these specs and see how you can kind of jigsaw the puzzle pieces together to be able to recreate your own Steam machine? And to Valve's credit too, they've basically done that. They've said like, hey, we release Steam OS. You can basically build your own PC if you think you can do it better and get it for a cheaper price. All the power to you. Here's the operating system to run it. Get it in a sleek form factor. And, you know, if you can get it for under $1,000, you're more than welcome to do so. So I think that there's still viability for this. And I think this is still an attractive product, but it definitely places it in an upper echelon to where it's like, it's not an instant buy for me now. It's like a, you know, wait and see, maybe save up a couple months worth of paychecks so that way you can kind of drop the money then. But I think that there's still a possible market for this with all the things I've mentioned.
Yeah, and it was always going to be expensive for what's in it. And again, it's kind of like that same thing. It's like, it's not like we're being naive and we're like, oh, this is less powerful than PS5. It should be $400. I mean, Valve is a much smaller company. They can't buy in the same volume as a Microsoft or a Sony can. So you're always going to be paying more, even if Valve subsidized the console, which I think they might still be doing. You were always going to be paying more, but like, yeah, I mean, just the current issues with RAM and all of this, like everything costs more. And so it just,
I think at these prices, they're not. I think that they're,
are they not even?
I think they're just about as expensive as they would be with all the hardware considerations. And I think they said, I don't know if it says in this article too, but like $700 to $800 was like the spot they were trying to hit before the RAM apocalypse. And they would be kind of willing to eat into some of the profits there at that point. But
yeah,
at $1,000, that's not subsidized.
That it brings to the table makes it worth kind of the same amount as as a competitor. If you're paying the same amount or similar, there's enough that the Steam OS and the Steam controller and just Steam and everything that comes with Steam, like there's enough benefits for them to compete directly if it's around the same cost. But being this expensive, I mean, even I would have been like, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe I could, that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Like, but now it's like, no way, no fucking way. There's just no reason, zero. So I don't know. It's selling.
I mean, let me ask you though, if you're at a position where you needed to get a new PC, would you just buy this?
No, I think you can still, like, money, like dollar per, I don't know, power or whatever, like per iota of power and graphical ability. This is still more.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I would rather.
I'm not making sense of this because I feel like for $1,400,
exactly,
I could probably build a better computer.
Significantly better. Yeah.
Mm.
So how does this happen? I get it that price hikes are like happening, but like how do you price this at $1,400 when somebody who already has a PC knows and looks at this and goes, I could build a better one? Now, granted, that's not everybody. A lot of people won't know that, right? But so are we marking it up just because it's a Steam machine?
Well, they're marking it up because they have to make money if they're going to sell it.
Yeah, I think they're selling it and hinging on the fact that like the prime customer for this is already going to have they're going to already probably have a massive Steam library, right. And they want the convenience of being able to just play in their living room and have that console experience. I'll tell you that there's not a lot of things that come close to that. Like I have a Steam Deck right now with a dock that I can put on the TV, and it kind of gets the job done, but it's not nearly to the same effect that I think something like this would have.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have any issue with just buying a long HDMI cord and plugging it into my TV because that's literally what I do now. And so if I wanted to just like sit on my couch and play on a console, I can already do that with a PC. I'm just like, I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around. This is a very niche, like very luxury type thing where I want to make it a little bit easier of ease of access. I want that to be a little bit easier to access, I guess, in a sense. But I wouldn't pay $1,400 for that. I'm having a really hard time wrapping my brain around why.
Well, it cuts out a lot of the PC stuff. I mean, it's more of a console. It runs like a version of Steam OS. It doesn't have Windows or anything. It's just you launch it up. It's just like the Steam Deck. You're right into it. It's like a console feel. The whole thing is it's like, and it runs faster because of that. You don't have all these background processes.
More streamlined.
Yeah, it's console-ified. It's not just a straight up PC.
Which is why it should be cheaper. That's what I'm trying to say. But that's Steam, why it should be cheaper.
But Valve cannot buy components at the reduced rate like Microsoft and a Sony can. They can't buy enough. They're not that big of a company in comparison.
Yeah.
And they're new into the space, so that you just can't get those kinds of deals.
And Xbox and PlayStation are trying to profit off of their exclusive games and whatnot. And there's things that you can only get through them, right? I mean, that part makes sense.
And I can't connect my PC, right? I mean, it might work for you, but it doesn't work for everybody. I can't do that. My PC's on the other side of the house downstairs. Like, I could never connect it to my TV upstairs. I mean, I guess I could. I could buy a 100-foot HDMI or something. It just seems like a lot. Like, I'm not going to do all that, you know?
Right.
Like, it would be cool. It'd be cool to have. I think a big market for this would be like people who have an older PC that have a big Steam library that don't want to originally that didn't want to pay $1,500 plus for a true upgrade PC. Hey, here's Valve, here's the Steam machine, and it's like somewhat comparable to that, but not quite. And it's $800 or whatever. It's like, oh shit, okay. I mean, it's way better than my old PC. I can keep playing all my Steam games. It's way less than building a new PC. It was a nice little. It was supposed to be a nice middle ground, but the world had other plans.
Yeah, and I think in the perfect world, they've even said like if it was really up to us, we would have sold this thing at $800, and
that would have been a great. I think that would have been a very reasonable price for in the current market. I think that would.
I'd even pay $1,000 to $1,100 for a 2 terabyte version with the controller. Yeah,
yeah, $1,000 if you do $800 for the base one, and then like $11. I feel like it should come with a controller. I think that's.
But you start getting close to $1,500, and I'm just like, I'll just build a PC.
Once you get within $300-$400, it's like, well, I mean, at that point, I'm spending this much money. It's like, I'll just save a little bit longer.
Throw it in.
Yeah.
And then Xbox added $100 again onto their consoles. So that's. I think that's because
I'm glad I found my used one for $300.
Me too, man. I'm really glad you did. I think the only thing I'll have to say before we sign off is like, with what's happening, I was talking about getting the Xbox, the 25th anniversary one or whatever. Because part of me is like, well, my current one is already like 4 years old. It seems like it's running great, but I'm like I'm not sure I'm going to buy another console from either manufacturer for a long time. I just feel like I have reached this point. I'm being kind of frozen out of the market going forward. Like if these new consoles are $1,200 or whatever, I'm not paying $1,200 for this. Like, I've got a nice PC. The Series X and the PS5 are pretty good. I've got a huge backlog. I think I'm just kind of done for a while, which is crazy. Yeah. And maybe eventually I'll get them. There are some things. It's like, I mean, Last of Us 3 comes out or whatever. What am I going to do there? That'll test me greatly. But outside of that, it's like, I think I'm just going to hold here and play on Series X and PS5 and my current rig and just I'm just going to kind of be stuck here for a while. Yeah, I just feel like this is where I am for foreseeable future. I'm definitely not going to be a day one adopter of these new consoles coming out next year or 2028 or whatever. It's like,
no, I will not be sitting in any virtual queues this next time around. So
no, I just don't. That's why I'm still sort of considering buying that collector's edition of it, because it's like, it's probably the last console I'll buy for like the next 6 years. And, just a nice fresh Series X, because that's what I play like 90% of my games on anyways. And then that'll be it. I'll be out. I'll be done. So I don't know. Any final thoughts on any of the stuff we talked about today, guys? Kyle, anything you want to sign off with?
No, I think we pretty much talked about it. It's just a total bummer to see where things are headed, and now we're in a spot where, especially between us three, and I know that there's a lot of people around our age who have been gamers since they were kids. We're no longer living in that world of abundance in gaming, and it's going to start hitting that point where, like you were talking about, Ian, we're going to have to discern on, I mean, is it even worth it now? Maybe I'm going to have to hold off on that new gear because it's a bit priced out, and albeit I could make it work and I could find a way to get the money and do it, but like, why would I, like you're talking about? So it's just sad. The industry's dramatically changing, and it's not something that we're just going to have access to whenever we want. It's something where we're going to have to kind of decide between that or, being responsible, which the whole point of playing games, in my opinion, was to have a moment of being irresponsible.
An escape from responsibility temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Taylor, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bummer all around. It's kind of one of those things too, where it's like this entire week, since probably our last episode, like I haven't really played a ton of games because it just kind of seems like this news has kind of like loomed over just the entire hobby in general. Like we get to late at night and I haven't felt the need to want to turn on my PlayStation or get on my computer or like play games in general. So it's kind of one of those weird depressing feelings I have where it's like kind of affecting just how I view the hobby in general. So yeah, hopefully things get better. I always try to hold out a little bit of hope that things can turn around and things can get better, but yeah, it's looking bleak. So here's to hoping, I guess.
Well, I'll try to leave us on a positive note. The one thing I'm trying to remember, to the kind of your point about having this is kind of affecting how you're playing games. There are still a ton of amazing games, and creatives are still making games, and the developers who are still alive are making games. And there's tons of indie games, and there's tons of even kind of AAA or AA games. They come out all the time that look awesome. And this makes me just want to continue to, like, I don't know, even if it doesn't make a difference holistically, like overall, I'm still kind of wanting to put my money where my mouth is and just be the consumer that supports this stuff. And I'm still excited about Control and all these games coming out. Like, the people making these games don't have a lot to do with this. They're just working and doing something that they really enjoy. And so that's where I'm trying to be. Like, there's so many games to play. I have a huge backlog, and there's so many great games to replay and I'm just loving Marathon. And even if Marathon dies in 2 weeks, I'll always remember playing this game. Like, I have got great memories playing with you guys, and the idea of just like, I never would have thought that a multiplayer online competitive sweaty PvP shooter would have been something that I would have been in love with. So things can still happen. Good things can still happen. Surprises can still take place. So I'm trying to just focus on that, but easier said than done, and totally understand your perspective completely. I just hope that we get some good news at some point to sort of help us assuage this, because this is like the thing that we do to like help us get through all of the other bad news. That's like really bad news.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like the real actual bad news. So it's tough when it's like this as well. So I'm just going to try and focus on the joy that gaming gives me, and enjoy what I already have. I feel like that's the one positive. It's like I'm very, very lucky from a gaming standpoint to have a PC and all these consoles, and it's kind of the only thing that I spend money on, throwaway disposable money. I don't have a lot of it, but I have enough to kind of let me do this. Yeah. And so I'm going to keep doing it because I love it. I love the art. And I hope if people keep making the art, I'll keep playing it. But it is tough. Definitely.
Yeah. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. All right, guys. Well, thank you. I know that was a rough one. We'll do something fun next week. We'll announce that shortly. Maybe we'll do some kind of ranking or something. Also, for anyone who is into football, we were discussing recently that Kyle and I kind of did like a side podcast about football last season. We decided we didn't want to do a full-on week-to-week, every week podcast and do this one. It's just like a lot. But as we get closer to football season, if you're listening and you do like football, I don't think we have very many fans. But if there are any out there that would be interested, we are going to do kind of a periodic football podcast as sort of like a sub thing to TSG. So we'll have like a chat for it in our Discord, and we'll like release it on the same threads, and it'll be clear what it is. And if you're not interested, that's okay. It won't affect our weekly podcast for TSG, but just want to let you know, as we're kind of getting close to training camp and starting, I've been thinking about some ideas for just the occasional episode. We'll probably do an episode like once a month or something like that, and just do some fun stuff. So keep your eyes peeled for that if that interests you. But other than that, I hope you all have a great weekend. Play some games. Try and reconnect with the things that we love about it, maybe, if you can. Have a great, safe weekend. And we'll be looking forward to catching you guys on next week's episode of the Solo Gamer Podcast. But until then, later.
See you guys. Stay safe.
Later, guys.